Everybody, this is Dear Mama Sal on a positively spring-like 0 degrees on Thursday, yay, Thursday, which of course is 32. Why am I even looking? So it's 0 degrees here in Canada, which would translate to freezing on anybody's scale. Just hold on 1 second. So, here we go. It is cloudy. That's a good thing. Cloudy keeps us warm. It's like a blanket. So we're warming up. Yay! Rain soon. Yay! Normal temperatures. Yay! I'm a happy camper. Or I will be when it all comes to play. Of course, then I'll be complaining about the rain, but you know, life's like that. I slept really well. I've noticed a change in my sleeping recently, and I'm not quite sure why, except that I have made a change in the way I heat the house at night. I'm letting the house sort of cool down, but then I've got a thermostatically controlled oil heater in my bedroom, which I don't normally have on, but I've had it on because of the very cold weather, and I'm wondering whether the fact that the room is just a little warmer is helping me sleep better. Interesting. Not quite sure about that. Whatever it is, I'm definitely not waking up 2 or 3 times in the night. And I want to tell you something. I had clean forgotten that my phone was in my coat pocket, and my coat pocket was not in my bedroom. So this morning my alarm didn't go off, and I am very fortunate that habit woke me up at 7:30. And it's quite strange because when I wake up, I can't see my clock if I haven't got my phone next to me, because my clock's a little bit too far away for me to be able to see what the time is. So I have to actually wake up to be able to see what the time is. I wonder if any of you know what I'm talking about. You know, you've got to sort of really focus to be able to see it. Can't sort of give it a glance. Anyway, so here's the thing. I had a really nice note yesterday from Chantal. Now, Chantal has written to me before, and she always comes up with really good subjects. And they're good because they're subjects that everybody struggles with. And I think that makes them good because it is human nature stuff. Here's what Chantal talked about. She was saying that a friend of hers came over, and forgive me if I get this a little bit wrong, Chantal, because I'm obviously not reading it, I'm just trying to memorize it. And I did read it nearly 24 hours ago, so you know that's fraught with problems. Anyway, here's the gist of it. The gist of it was that somebody came over, or she met somebody, and they were talking about baby food, No, I think the woman actually opened up the fridge and saw that she had orange juice, or was giving orange juice to the child. And the problem was the reaction to that. That the person who saw the orange juice, by body language, by voice tone, by everything, was judging her for feeding her daughter orange juice. Well, what Chantal's question is why do I feel so terrible? I know that I work so hard to not put extra sugars into my baby. You know, that she really works hard at making everything that she does for her child good. And yet, by the time this woman had left her house, she must have come to the house. By the time this woman had left the house, you know, she felt like a wicked mother. And she wanted to know what to do about that in her life. Well, first of all, Chantal, I totally and utterly relate. And what you need to know in your life is that people making judgments of you is one of your triggers. So therefore, on the upside of that, you are probably a very justice-oriented person. You hate it when anybody makes judgments of other people. You probably hate it when people make snap judgments without finding out the facts. You probably are a very fair person. And in fact, a very good friend in that, because you will always want both sides of the story to be unveiled. You will always support a friend, but you will also know there is a second side. And that really, before you can really make a call, you need to hear that second side, if possible. So here is the thing. I think the reason that we go into, and by the way, how many of you know that feeling that Chantal's talking about, where your stomach wants to turn inside out, where your heart just is bleeding, and you're going, wait a minute, you know, and they've long gone, and you're thinking, wait a minute, I should have done something different here, and I don't know what. Because now she thinks, and I didn't defend myself properly. Okay, so those are the two magic parts to this. She thinks, and I didn't defend myself properly. That's what's happening in my view. Those are the reasons why you feel the way that you do. So first of all, she thinks. We hate it when people judge us, and especially when they judge us unfairly. Now, you've got a number of things that you can do about that. Yay! The river isn't frozen! Ha! Anyway, there are two things you can do about that. Some people can just plain ignore it and go, listen, she's going to think whatever she wants to think, and it doesn't really matter what I say. It's not going to change her mind. And a lot of people live life that way, and they just move on. And then there's another group of people who will say, that is totally unfair. She made a judgment about me that is not true. And they may write an email or, you know, meet them for coffee and, you know, address this issue. Now, here is the problem. Unless you are really capable of doing this in a non-threatening way or a non-hurtful way, be very careful of doing that one. In other words, it's okay for you to say to them, you know, I was a little bit shocked at your reaction when you saw the orange juice. I was a little bit shocked. Right? Keep it in the first person. And I just wanted to make sure that you understand that the only sugars that go into my daughter, I think it's a daughter, you know, are her daily measure of orange juice, which, by the way, is there for other reasons as well, vitamin C, da 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 da. You know, in other words, now you can do that, but will you convince this other person? No. This other person will still, 50% chance they will still think that you do not feed your child properly. Because, you know, they've made that decision. And they'll think that anything you do to try and change that decision is just you trying to backtrack. Fair? No, absolutely not fair. Anything you can do about it? Not a whole lot. So then that brings you to the point of, do you want to do that? And if you do, that's fine. I did it once with somebody who totally insulted my intelligence on something. You know, and had a lot of people convinced that I had done something without due thought or process or whatever. And I knew that I could just ignore it and let them have their opinion, because that's all it is. It is their opinion. Or I could defend myself. And what I did was I actually did write an email, and I copied it to a lot of people that were involved that I thought that one person would have spoken to. And I said, I understand that this has been said about me. I will not be addressing this matter again after this email, but in the interest of fairness, I would like you to hear my side of the story. And then I proceeded to tell them just how thoughtful and caring I had been about making this decision. And luckily, I had people that they could speak to because I had spoken to them about it. And, you know, basically finished by saying, as usual, my number one concern was for the well-being of this person. Now, I did word it very well, if you don't mind my saying so. I really did word it quite well. And I would have to say that if you were a rational person, you'd have great difficulty not believing my story, because it was true. And it was worded in such a way that it was definitely the right thing to do, and I knew it was. That's why I defended myself. Now, do I think that my email convinced the person who had it in for me? No. Did I really care? No. You see, the people that I wanted to approach were those people who were rational enough to want to listen to both sides of the story. And that was the other people that had been involved. Okay, so here is the thing. Is this person, Chantal, about whom you're speaking, a friend? Because if this person is a friend, you can have this conversation over coffee or something and just go, hey, I watched your body language and I heard your voice tone when you saw the orange juice and knew I was feeding it to my child. And, you know, I'm smart enough to know that that body language, that voice tone means that there was a little bit of a judgment going on there. So let's talk about that. Do you really think that it is unhealthy for me to be feeding my child orange juice? And if so, why? And by the way, and if they give a perfectly rational answer for that, you go, thank you for your input. I certainly will think about that. You don't have to say they're right. Just tell them you'll think about it. You see, if they think you'll think about it, It's the end of the problem. And I'd also consider saying, and by the way, thank you for telling me your truth. Because isn't that what you want from a friend? And then clear the way and say, I hope it's okay that we had this discussion, because I wouldn't be truthful to you if I didn't tell you that that really hurt a little bit, and I needed to talk it out to be able to just balance my mind. So then there's this other group of people that I was talking about. And they're the ones that can hear and watch what went down, all right, can hear this whole thing about the judgment, can see the body language, can feel all of that, and not be torn apart. Now, Chantal, just so that you know, they're a different group of people. They are people who actually do not live their lives worrying about what other people think of them. And if somebody wants to judge them for giving their child orange juice, they go, so be it. I'm still giving my child orange juice. You see, this is my child, and the last time I checked, I could actually, as long as it was legal, you know, bring them up the way I thought was right and do what I feel is right. I can remember people judging me on so many different issues in my life, and I can remember that feeling you're talking about, Chantal, and I want to tell you something. It was gut-wrenching, and it made me feel literally sick to my stomach sometimes. It was so painful. But they didn't understand. You know, I really envy the people who just go, I actually don't give a. You know, I just don't care. If you want to judge me, go right ahead. And then live a life that makes that just unbelievable. And I say unbelievable because do we all do some stupid things in our lives? Do we all have some bad days as opposed to constantly good ones? Of course we do. Now there's some days when my bitch from hell comes out instead of my loving angel. Yeah. You know? I'm trying to keep it contained more inside my mind, as you know, but I still do have those little moments where I let rip, where I don't know if any of you recognize this one, where the words are actually traveling across my tongue faster than I can close my lips. And I'm going, I should have closed my lips harder because those words should never have got out. But they did. And it's lack of control on my part. I understand that, but oh, it feels good sometimes. I wish I could tell you otherwise, but it's true. But so I look at this and say, just know who you are. You know, and Chantal, if you're the first side, and which I know you are, because you wouldn't have reacted the way you did if you were not, then work towards being a little bit more like the second side. You know, I'm not asking you to change dramatically, because, you know, it's not possible, it's not who you are. But start thinking in terms of, yep, I can feel the pain. Yep, that means that I actually care what she thinks about me. Is that really important in my life, what this person thinks about me? And if the answer is actually, yes, this is somebody I consider to be a friend and want to keep as a friend, then do something about it. Have a discussion. Somewhere, somehow. Doesn't have to be this week or this month even. I got to tell you a story where some time ago, maybe a year or so ago, a friend of mine wrote an email. We were both working on a project together, and she wrote an email that was really not in keeping with anything I knew about her. And It was really weird. And I actually wrote to her and said, look, I don't know what on earth made you write this email, but I need to tell you this is not in keeping with who I know you to be. Therefore, what on earth were you thinking? I need to understand. You know what I mean? And I didn't care if it was judgmental. It was just like, no. And she fought me tooth and nail. And eventually I said to her, you know, we need to have this out face to face. So I invited her over for dinner and she came. And we sat until all evening. And she kept saying, no, I didn't. And I said, yes, you did. And no, I didn't. Yes, you did. And eventually at about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, she said, get me this email. We should have started with it, by the way. Get me this email. So I did. I went and got the email. And I read it off my computer. And she looked at me and her whole face started to contort. You know, the eyes were screwed up and you could tell by the body language. And she goes, I didn't write that. I said, well, that makes sense. She said, I wrote an email a bit like that, but I had my husband check it over because she has English as a second language, as I do. But she had her husband check it over and improve it. Well, hubby not only checked it over, but he made it say all sorts of things that definitely weren't what she would have said. And that's why I was so confused. Now, as a friend, I wanted to find that out. Right? Not as a bad person, as a friend, like, help me understand. Where on earth were you coming from on this? And what the story was, she didn't write it. So, I thank you for a great subject, Chantal, and I wonder whether the viewers can support Chantal by giving us some feedback about whether you've had this happen to you and how you felt and how you deal with it. Because I think the more different ways that we have that discussion, the more options Chantal will have. All right, everybody, this is Dear Mama Sal. Thank you for listening, as usual, and bye-bye for now.